5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Doing it again. BIKEDOPE conversations. What's today's date? February 12th. February 12th. I got I really just how this works for me is I meet just this most awesomest people just by coincidence more times than none, man. I don't know. I really get a good feel for you. It was kind of weird how we kind of met. I don't even know. When did we meet?
Yeah, we met yesterday. So it was Sunday, February 11th. I was moving into a new apartment, and I looked in this little boardroom they got in the lobby, and I saw you sitting in here with some lady, and I saw you got these fancy mics set up, and first thing I thought was what they got, a radio station set up in here?
Right. So we really just met essentially like nowish though, right? Like you see me, and I'm sorry, I don't remember seeing you yesterday.
Yeah.
But we really just met today at 7 o'clock. That's pretty cool.
So how the story really goes down, man, is I saw you guys, and I was real curious, and something told me, man, you need to figure out what they're doing.
Right on.
You need to be nosy, man. But I was going to respect y'all's time in here, but I ran into that lady you were talking to in the elevator later that day.
Right on.
Sure enough, I asked her. She said, yeah, I was in there just sharing my story.
This is my man. I didn't give you a proper introduction. This is Andrew Furr, a.k.a. the what?
Spirt Wolf.
A.k.a. the Spirt Wolf. Now, you know you got to do some explaining.
Yeah, man. Hey, there's really not a whole lot of explaining to do, man.
Okay.
Anytime my uncle and I used to go bowling back in the day, we just make up just fun names, whatever you want to call it.
Okay.
And this man, he's always been a free spirit, right?
Yeah.
And he, I don't know, man. He does a lot of hiking. I think his name was Wandering One.
Okay.
And he looked at me. He said, "You know what? You're Spirit Wolf, because you kind of like to march to your own beat. You know what I'm saying?" So over the years, it kind of just stuck, man.
So what? Because I'm all about energy and stuff like that. So when you've got the rundown, what I'm trying to do here, or what the idea of BIKEDOPE actually and truly is, what made you come? I guess hit me up or me find you and speak to old girl. What makes you different? Like. Well, what not makes you different? I shouldn't have said that, but what makes you you?
I would say first reason why I wanted to reach out to you was, quite honestly, selfish intentions, man.
Okay.
I knew you had a platform
right
for my voice to be heard.
Right.
And what my voice wants to really talk about, man, is how Jesus Christ saved my life.
Okay.
Whenever everybody hears about Jesus, they all, they get real. They start sitting up a little straighter, man. If you got a drink, you might put it behind you. But, man, that's not what I'm here for.
Okay.
I'm not here to pass judgment, man. I'm here to love. I'm here to hear your story, and I'm here to just do life with you, man.
Okay.
So, but I'd like to, eventually we'll get to kind of hearing my story. Cause I didn't always know Jesus, man. I didn't always know Jesus.
So you're a wild boy. Where are you from? Hold on.
I'm from Raleigh, North Carolina.
Okay. Because a lot of people that I've met are just, I guess, from here, really haven't been necessarily from this area, I guess. Well, I guess the people I have talked to, but I guess just in not necessarily in the podcast, but just people in general. I haven't, this area is a big melting pot. What I gather. So how you end up in Charlotte from Raleigh?
Cool, man. Yeah, so got recruited to play golf at App State's up in Boone, right, western part of the state.
Right.
Got my education there just in finance, and then came down here to work for one of the major financial institutions in town.
Wow.
So I've been here for about 3 years.
They paying you good?
Man, more than I deserve.
What's good pay here?
Depends on who you ask, man, but I think the income for two families here in Charlotte, I think the average income for two families is $50,000.
Okay.
And so I'd say $50,000 you'd probably get by as being an individual.
Okay. So you were a golfer, you said?
I was a golfer, that's right.
So you're really you pay very close attention to detail, and your concentration level is like out the roof, I assume.
Yeah, it should be. If all that was the case, I'd probably still be playing at a higher level, but I like doing what we're doing right now, man. Yeah. I like going out there and enjoying the fellowship.
Right on.
And a lot of times that used to get me off of my own game. You know what I'm saying? I go out there and have a good time regardless, but some days I'd have it, other days I wouldn't.
I don't want you to think, because like I've told you and other people, that this podcast, what I'm doing is really real and it's genuine. So if I swear and stuff like that, I don't want you to think that, that I'm like a
hey man, I'm no saint myself, so
bad dude or whatever. You know what I mean? Because this is actually a first. Like I really just met you now, and there was no, normally what I do is I find people via social media or courtesy of somebody else. And we might have a little sit down here and there, and I think it'll be interesting enough for somebody else to appeal to. But I really don't know anything about you outside of what we're talking about right now. Like you just told me beforehand that you play golf, which is dope. But other than that, like I didn't know you went to App State. I didn't know you were a finance dude. I don't know anything about you essentially. You know what I mean? So we got to do some explaining, buddy. So,
for those of you on the call, real quick, and I don't mean to interrupt you there, John, but man, as John mentioned, this is the first time he and I have honestly met. Yeah. But I feel like I've known the guy for a decade.
My man.
So the folks out there listening, if you got a story to tell, I encourage you to come talk to him because, man, your hospitality. And I'm like I said, I told the man earlier, man, if I wanted to kiss his tail, right, I'd ask him to bend over, but the man's still seated. So I'm being genuine with you, man. You made me feel welcome. I appreciate
it, man. And we're downstairs at your apartment dwelling, right? I'm not even at home. Like, this is sweet. I like it. So you weren't always. Don't take this the wrong way, but you weren't always like a Jesus freak. Or or were you?
No, man. I think that is well said.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, for lack of better words,
right? Exactly
right, man. So, I'm 25 now, but I do bring a few gray hairs to the conversation, right?
Okay.
Have been there and done some of that stuff, man. But I'd love to get into some of that with you. I would say, man, where my testimony starts is just like, I mean, for me, I grew up privileged, right? Grew up in just suburbs. I would say everybody says, oh, we're kind of upper middle class. I would say we were well off, man.
Wow. What do your folks do?
So my dad works for a gas company. My mom did nursing.
Wow.
But she worked a night shift and did a lot of traveling. So for nurses, you make a little more doing that.
No doubt.
But with that being said, though, man, my mom, she really was, I would say, the primary breadwinner because she was always gone, man. She worked 7 days on, and then she might get a couple days off, but she'd be working in different cities and such, right? Which was, I feel like growing up, not having your mother around, etc. I can't really look back and say exactly how that impacted me, but I know it's got to be tough for my father.
Yeah.
So it's kind of reversed for him in a way. He was kind of the not stay-at-home dad. He still had his full-time job and such, man.
Yeah.
But I think really where my testimony starts, man, and one character trait I learned from my parents is really how to. When I say read people, I don't mean judge them, right? I mean just picking up on body language, right?
Yeah.
If somebody needs some encouragement, man, I can pick up on it. It just different things.
Mm-hmm.
So back in, it was probably about 2006. I'm sitting in a Food Lion parking lot with my mother. We just put the groceries in the car. And I had just been noticing, man, that something hadn't been right with her. I looked at her, just like I'm looking at you now, John.
Mm-hmm.
I said, Mom, you got to be honest with me. What's going on?
Right.
And she looked right at me. She said, no, man, you would think. But that was the kind of look, right? But you're barking up the right tree there. But she looked at me and she said, I've been seeing another man for a couple of years now. And being in and I got other siblings and such, right? We had a family of 5, and so I hear this, and I'm probably in like 7th grade. I don't know how old that makes you.
Yeah.
You got some kids. I mean, how
7th grade? So my son, you're about 12 or 13.
Yeah.
Right on.
So I hear that, man, and she gave me some justification, or not justification. She gave me some reasons, and I understood all of them. Did that justify her actions? I don't personally believe so, but I didn't hold it against her.
Mm-hmm.
I just knew that that she could confide in me, and I knew for a fact I wasn't going to tell anybody because I didn't want the family splitting apart.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So that was it. That was at age 13, and mind you. At that young age, granted, my mother was a Catholic, my dad was Presbyterian, so we would float in and out of church maybe on the holidays, but we weren't really a church-going family.
Ask you, right? You guys churchy kind of folks.
My parents would be the first ones to tell you how Jesus has impacted their life, but I wouldn't say I ever see them opening up their Bibles and stuff. And not that that's what it takes to be a Christian, etc., have a relationship with Christ.
Right.
I feel like they experienced him in other ways other than just the brick and mortar church or the pages of the Bible.
No doubt.
So getting back to it, man. So she tells me that, and so at the time, people had told me about Jesus, but it's almost like somebody telling me about, rocket science or something. It's like, you hear about it, and you're like, okay, but you don't really know much about it still.
Okay.
And you don't really have a real interest. And this is age 13. So some years progress, and I'm probably, sophomore in high school. 16, 17 years old, and I'm, running with my friends. We're smoking some pot. We're still drinking, and mind you, man, all my partying days really happened in high school.
Yeah.
And, I wasn't trying to escape anything or get away from anything. I honestly enjoyed marijuana, man. I hands down enjoyed it. And so I come home one day, man, and I tell you, John, I was stoned to the bone, man.
Okay.
Stoned to the bone. Sitting there in the kitchen, and my parents are all in there. My 2 siblings are in there, and they're disciplining me pretty good. And why I said this, John, to this day, I still don't know. But I looked my mother square in her eyes, and I said, Mom, I said, don't ever act like you've never made a bad decision in your life.
Yeah.
And I know for some of y'all listen, you said that to your mother, you might not have a pulse right now. But
right.
But man, for whatever reason, that was almost a blessing in disguise, because she turned right around to my father, John, and she said, you know what? He's right. I've been seeing this other man for however many years, and Andrew's known about it the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
So, you can imagine how that make you feel.
Yeah,
and,
no doubt.
And so she ended up, I don't even know, she packed her things. She just ended up leaving, and my dad stayed there in the house with us. And that night, man, I remember distinctly, I went to bed, and DirecTV is what we had, and I went to the 800 channels, and you could just listen to different types of music on there.
Yeah.
Man, why that dial stopped on the gospel station that night, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I went to sleep listening to gospel radio, and I said, Jesus, I've heard about you, but it's time to let you handle this.
Yeah.
Because you know what, man, I don't know what to do. I've handled it all these years, and granted, man, when you have a weight like that you're keeping any kind of secret, man, it don't have to be that your mother's doing something with against your father, but man, any kind of weight like that is if you ever been in the gym. And you've got that 1 rep max weight on that bar, and the second you lift it off, and you're thinking to yourself, man, do I got this or do I not got this? That's the feeling that weight felt like over all those years. So in a sense, it was a relief. But at that very moment, I'd say back in 2009 is when I said, Jesus, you got to take this over, man. So I invited him into my life, right? I invited him in.
Pause right there. What happened? So is your mom and dad still together at this point?
Hey, man,
or your old man is...
They're still together.
Wow.
They're still together.
Okay.
And, and that's one thing I've been meaning to go and talk to. I talked to my mom about it. Asked her straight up, Mom, how did y'all, work all this out? And she said quite simply, we just talked.
Yeah.
She said we met back up, and we talked for 6 or 7 hours.
Yeah.
And they just hashed it out like that. But you know what, John? The one thing I've been wanting to do, man, and it's been weighing heavy on my heart, I've been wanting to ask my dad that same question. Could you imagine that?
I would too.
Because as men in this society, if your woman goes and runs around on you, what's the first thing you do? And there's no right or wrong answer.
It depends on who you ask. I mean,
know.
a lot of people play, an eye for an eye.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you did that to me, I'm gonna do it times you times 10.
Exactly.
Or you just might sit tight and calculate your steps a little bit and iron it out. It depends.
Hey, it's hard to say until something like that happens to you, though.
Jack.
It's hard to say, and and I guess fortunately I haven't experienced that, right? But I know I respect my father because he stuck by us, so my siblings and I, and he ended up forgiving my mother. And just as a father figure and seeing that level of forgiveness, man, I knew that was beyond. It had to have been beyond his control as a man, because I don't know. I don't want to put that stereotype on men saying they can't forgive in that regard. But I just knew in my back of my mind there had to have been something greater,
a deeper reservoir somewhere. It's pulling from somewhere else.
Something, man.
Yeah, that makes
something.
sense.
So anyway, so all that went down. So I invited Jesus into my life, and my mother was gone for I don't know how long. Honestly, can't recall. But they worked their stuff out. So now I'm in college, and granted, since I invited Jesus into my life, man, nothing's changed. I'm still seeing a bunch of women. I'm still out there, drinking underage, isn't the worst crime in the world, but still doing a lot of that and just being reckless.
Still smoking weed.
Still a little. Well, I went to college for golf, so NCAA drug testing, man. So I phased myself out of that. But like I said, man, it wasn't as much about that I needed it as much as I liked doing it. Right. So
when you smoke, where does it take you?
Where does it take me? I'll just put it to you this way, man. I'm an athlete, so if I were to smoke, man, I'd probably go. It'd call me crazy. I'd go for a run because I love feeling how every muscle in my body works, and I could tell on that run whether I needed to stretch one area more, whether I needed to do any kind of rehab, etc.
Yeah.
I could just feel my body working.
And the reason I ask is because everybody has a different walk when it comes down. Like, I'm not the biggest weed smoker. I mean, I smoke every now and again, but that's not my stick. I might drink here and there, but you know, I whatever. I don't really need to.
You know, and I don't want to get hung up on the weed smoking, man. You know, there's different strokes for different folks, but and you know, I don't look down upon that, but that was just one phase of my life, right?
Yeah.
So my junior year of college rolls around. My father calls me up. He said, "Hey, Andrew, we're going to send you off to college golf fellowship." And I started thinking to myself, "What is that?" But essentially, what it boiled down to is as a collegiate golfer, any kind of golf player, I guess, could go spend the weekend at an actual professional's house. Mm-hmm. And so the professional I got to go see was Webb Simpson, who was the winner of, I want to say, the 2012 U.S. Open, which is one of golf's four biggest tournaments.
That's a big joke. Yeah.
Yeah, and so we went to his house here in Charlotte, and just so happens, man, the topic of that weekend was just I don't want to say Christian relationship and define it that way, but just it was about how a husband should serve his wife and vice versa.
Yeah.
Right. And I always kind of joke and say, man, had I been completely deaf that weekend and not been able to hear a single word anybody was saying, I could look at Webb Simpson and his wife Dowd, and I knew that what I currently had in my relationship wasn't what they had. And I wasn't playing comparisons. I just knew, man, what these folks I was looking at had was special. And I didn't have that with any other woman I had dated up to that point either. Mm-hmm. But I knew my parents had it.
Yeah.
I knew my parents had it. So, man, I proceeded to come back from school, and although it was a long kind of process, man, ended up ending that relationship I was currently in.
Okay.
And at that time, I remember praying. I said, now, once again, man, you know, I'm jumping around here a little bit, but I still haven't really been pursuing Christ a whole lot since I invited him into my life. This is going on probably 4 years ago, right, where I'm at in the story. So, anyways, I find myself praying. I said, God, man, I just wish you'd send me a God-fearing woman. And, you know, God-fearing is one of those buzzwords that, once again, man, what does God-fearing mean to you? There's no right answer. There's no wrong answer. What does God-fearing mean to you,
me? Just, you know, if you do something, your conscience, a.k.a. God, you're going to pay for that.
Right.
Ultimately, some way, somehow. That's my logic.
Okay. And that's not wrong, man. Just like you said, there's different ways of interpreting things.
Right.
How what I've learned about a God-fearing woman since I made that, you know, since I prayed that prayer, is that a God-fearing woman, man, is someone who aligns themselves kind of to God's standards. And that doesn't mean in a legalistic sense, right? You just don't do it to do it. But, man, God-fearing is just loving God and putting him first in your life. And what the result of that, as I've found, is, you know, that person is going to show you a lot of grace, a lot of patience, a lot of unconditional love, right? So they're not keeping score. Mm-hmm. They're not keeping score. Mm-hmm. And so anyways, so I prayed that, man, and I moved to Charlotte about 4, 5, 6 months later. And I'm just doing my thing at orientation for my job, and sure enough, this woman named Hannah Everett falls into my life.
Okay.
Falls right into my life, man, pretty much my arms. And you know, that relationship, man, it started off like any other, right? You know, any other, just, you know, living the fast life, you know, the whole like sex before marriage thing. And like I said, man, sex before marriage, that's one of those kind of cardinal deals, right? People are like, well, why would you want to wait? Well, what do you think about sex before marriage, John? Hey, I'm not putting you on the spot, man. Talk to me.
It's impossible, man. I wasn't raised like that. You know what I mean? Like I was raised that, you know, it's a blessing for us to be able to eat tonight and have a roof over our head and be able to, you know, just maintain a functioning household just because I'm a single child.
Yeah. So
my mother went over and above and beyond for me. At least she tried to. And we struggled like hell, homeboy. For real. You know what I'm saying? We struggled like hell. And so sex and before marriage, that wasn't even on my radar.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't raised to be like that. My mother would, you know, and I just want her to have some kind of, just to be a normal mom, and what she did times 10. But just as far as social life, she would meet guys and stuff like that. And that really never came up.
Right.
But as I became older, sex before marriage, I just kind of adopted it, like whatever. I mean, she was fly like that. I wanted to hit her. That's what it was. Like,
right.
In my area, that's what it was. It wasn't like, I'm gonna hold steady. No, it wasn't like that. Honestly. So I don't know. Like you said, like you came from like you guys are well off. We weren't, So I guess ethically and morally, man, maybe it was different.
I don't think it's necessarily ethically and morally as much, man, as it is just.
I'm saying because you had necessities, dude. We just had so you guys could focus on the cool, the stuff that, not to say it didn't matter, but like the church stuff, or like I don't even know what Presbyterian is. Like now I do because I'm older, but when I was 12 or 13, like that wasn't no big deal.
Right.
No, my mother was hustling.
Yeah.
Like cleaning houses and selling weed and shit. The same, you know what I'm saying? Like that, that's my reality. And shit. So sex before marriage, I mean. Okay, I'm gonna tell you the truth. And furthermore, like it might seem kind of shallow, and I don't want you to think of me any different. But how about if you have sex with a chick and it ain't no good? Do you have like a standard? Because I know you're like a God-fearing man, stuff like that too. But how about you?
Well, man, I'm no virgin myself.
Yeah,
so,
right. So I don't see how that can even be like. How does that even come up in the train of thought if you're not even a virgin from the word say go when you get introduced to Miss Hannah here?
Yeah,
that's what I'm trying to understand.
And so that's always a tough question that I face, right? Because a lot of what I'm saying is probably coming across as hypocrisy, but you got to realize, man, is I hadn't really accepted Christ yet at this point in the story as like my Lord and Savior, right? So when you haven't really accepted something, you're not really going to be living for it or adamant about it, right? So to answer your question, man, my upbringing, like you said, was totally different. Totally different. Sex in my family was viewed as like, just don't make it like it's like brushing your teeth is what I distinctly remember. Sex is something special. It's not like brushing your teeth. Well, at about 16 years old, man, that went out the door for me personally. But like I said, I don't want to get hung up on the sin part of this as much as when I finally, we'll get back to the story here. So, like I said, man, it's easy to get hung up on that kind of the glory days, so to speak.
Whatever. How you want to do it, brother?
Yeah, man. So met Hannah. We started off on that fast lifestyle, right? We were definitely, and she's probably going to wring my neck, but we were having sex the first, 5 months of our relationship. We've been together for roughly going on 3 years.
And Paul, I'm going to interject because it's just regular conversation, right? This is not an interview, but it's just regular conversation. And I don't want you to ever think that this, like when I talk to people, like sex is always the furthest thing from my mind. Like there's never no sexual undertone or
you're right,
anything, any pretenses. You know what I'm saying? So you ain't got to talk about the sex if you don't want to.
So the biggest thing, man, about Christianity that I really want to get across to folks, man, is that, man, you as a Christian, you still struggle. Yeah. If not even more than when you're not trying to live to kind of God's standards. Because in my opinion, man, I've been tempted more since I've given my life to Christ, since I was before I did.
But doesn't that make sense though?
Yeah,
because you're probably you're doing a whole lot less.
Well,
I assume, right? No.
Yeah. Well, yeah. No, you're right, man. You're right. But so anyways, so based upon her past and my past, I was under the assumption that man, if I don't give this woman this kind of physical love, she's gonna find somebody else who will. Right. And then, and plus, just as a guy, it's kind of just how I was always wired. Like, man, if I'm not doing this, I'm missing out.
Yeah,
I'm missing out on something. For her, and I guess I don't know, many females might feel is kind of the same deal. If I'm not giving him what he wants, when he wants it, how he wants it, he's gonna leave. He's gonna leave. So once we kind of sat down and had that conversation around, I was like, hey, listen. For my past, I've gone from having, any kind of physical need I needed. I had that met every day. If that's how I wanted it panned out. But man, those relationships, all of them crashed and burned.
No doubt.
And I'm not blaming that on the sex, but what I can tell you is living, and now I don't know, man, 2 years without having any kind of intercourse with my fiance, soon to be wife. I can tell you, man, that cutting that physical piece out has allowed our relationship to flourish, man.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Because learning how to live with someone without that has allowed me personally to appreciate her for who she is versus what she can give me.
Yeah.
Right. And now I'll be honest, John. That's probably been the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. It has been difficult going from tasting that fruit to then not even taking a bite. But
good for you. That's sweet though. I commend you for that.
Thank you, man. But the thing is, getting back. Remember how I was telling you, man. How did my dad forgive in that situation? It came from something beyond his own strength or ability, in my opinion. Right. I would give the credit here to God, man, because I couldn't have done that by myself. Like, that is not something I physically could have done, is to give that up for as long as I have. And it's not about counting the days here, right? It's not about patting me on my back. It's not about that, man.
Right, I get it.
But you know, I've
and plus you're a younger dude too, man.
Yeah.
And you don't find too many younger guys out here wired like that that's actually willing to, you know, I guess sit tight, for lack of a better term.
That's right, man. That's right. Well, yeah, I guess sit tight is one way of putting it, but
well, you gotta understand too, Spirt Wolf, that there's a lot of people that listen to this podcast, man. There's a bunch of people from all different walks of life, so we just got to be very broad when we talk to everybody. You know what I mean? So I use little weird words and stuff like that just because I know people understand. Not to say that it's just like a universal language, man. So what do you struggle with now, though?
Yeah. So
what do you? Well,
don't let that question escape.
Okay.
Please circle back to that. I'll be happy to answer it. But getting back to this kind of testimony deal, man, is so 5 months into our relationship, and this has been about 2.5 years ago now, we decided to make Christ the cornerstone of our life. And so, what does that look like for most people? It might just mean going to church every Sunday, or I don't know, like saying just saying your Hail Marys. It's just, a lot of just checking the box type stuff. And I'm not being judgmental there. But for us to really make Christ the cornerstone of our life, man, we really we wanted to put him before each other.
No doubt.
So one thing, she approached me and she said, "Listen, Andrew, if we're going to do this, you got to know that you're no longer the most important thing in my life." And once again, hearing that, man, that hurt. That hurt hearing that, because in a relationship you're used to kind of being front and center. Not every need being met, but you know what, man, it hurt. But I was able to mutually say the same thing to her. I said, you know what, I'm willing to try to put this guy, this being, this power that I truly at the time hadn't really come to know yet, but I was willing to give it a shot and be curious and pursue the idea of it and just see what came of it. So so we found a church here in Charlotte, and naming churches doesn't matter, man. It doesn't matter what church I come from, man. We're all in it we're all in it for the same reason, man. Salvation is free. Salvation is just like, I don't know, man, like the Mercedes sitting out there on the street with the car unlocked and with your name on it. If you don't go grab it, man, not to say that's on you, but when something's free, you go out there, you get it, and you own it. Right on. And so for me, when that clicked, I just started a Bible in a year reading plan, a little devotional on my phone, man, just Bible app.
Say it again. You started a what?
I started a devotional. So
now you said a Bible in a year.
I started a plan that would help me on a day-to-day basis read the Bible in 1 year. So it's almost kind of like homework, right? So
Bible in a year is what you said.
Read the Bible in 1 year.
I got you.
So just like homework, day one of the plan might be read, book, Genesis chapter 1. And read verse 1 through 15 or something, right? So, you start knocking it out, and throughout the year, you get through the whole thing. And so, man, when you think about the Bible, man, for me, I was intimidated.
Yeah.
I didn't know how to read it, where to start. I didn't know the first thing about it. But, man, as I was disciplined and used some spare time in my day to actually get into it and start reading, man, my heart started changing. John. My heart started changing, man, and my life just became a lot more like simple. Now, it didn't become any less difficult or easy, but it just became a lot more simple, man. I had just so much clarity brought into my life that I cannot put into words, man. But so I was reading this plan, and I believe it was on December 17th of 2017 at 11:22 at night. How I remember this, man, I don't know, but I woke up from sleep, or I don't know, but I remember I woke up and I said out loud, I said, God, I know I invited you into my life, however many years ago, but this very second, I give you my life. I said, God, I want you to use me in whatever means necessary. Like, I want to spread the good news of the salvation that you can offer us, right? Because I'll tell you, John, I haven't experienced too many hardships in my life, and that's a blessing. That's a true blessing, man. But I can tell you, for the folks out there, man, who have, and I'm not saying Christianity is the answer, but I'm saying if you are the slightest bit curious, and you feel that in your heart, you're not just curious because somebody's telling you, or I'm telling you, yeah, this helped me. But if you're truly curious, I encourage you to just invite Christ into your life, man, and just see what happens. You'd be surprised.
Right.
You really would be.
So my question is, when you invite Christ into your life, like when people start talking that to me, like, how do you know that Christ already hasn't been invited to other people's lives already, based on your logic? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, because I woke up this morning, right? And I told you before I had a heart attack.
Yep.
And I don't know what other kind of proof I would need, because I don't go to church as much. You know what I mean? Like, does that mean I'm not invited?
I'm no theologian, man. Like I said, I'm no saint. I still struggle myself. What I mean by inviting Christ into your life is kind of how I picture it, man. Is I don't know. There's really no good way of putting it, but man, Christ could bring these four walls down on us right now. I feel like if he really wanted to. But even with all that power, he's not just gonna force himself into your life because he sees you struggling.
Right, but when you say bring him into your life, what exactly do you mean? Like living in his image and his mirror? Mirroring his images? What are we doing?
I'm saying, man, and there's no silver bullet to it, right? There's no, become a Christian in 30-day plan. But for me, all it was is, Christ, please intercede on my behalf. Because at this point, I'm struggling. I don't know what else to do.
But how were you struggling? What were you struggling with that was that bad that you had to really call?
So for me, it was dealing with that. It was dealing with my mother told my dad she'd been cheating on me, and I'd known about it for all those many years.
Okay.
And so I was like, man, I don't know how this is. My family's gonna be ripped apart.
Yeah.
My father's lost all kind of a credibility or trust, I've lost all kind of a credibility or trust in my father.
For your dad, right?
And my siblings as well. How do my siblings feel now? They've known that I've been keeping this thing a secret all these years. And granted, what good would it have done if I came out and said something earlier? I don't know. Hadn't thought about that. But for me, I was dealing with all that fear and all that anxiety about, how my family was going to react, knowing that I kept that from them. Because as a family, man, trust and honesty, I think, are the two biggest things, in my opinion.
No doubt.
So for me, that's what it took. That was kind of my...
But you're talking 12 years old, at 12, 13.
That's when I invited him in, man. But then over the course of those next 8 years...
But you said the date. The date, you just mentioned the date.
Yeah.
What day was that?
That was December 17th, 2017. So that was just a couple months ago. I said, man, I want to give you my life. I want you to use me. I
didn't... You said 2017.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So we're talking...
So I'm talking... It took about 8 years from the time that I invited him into my life, meaning just like, hey, man, like... kind of show me your way. Kind of just guide.
So your day to day is now what then, as opposed to what it used to be?
My day to day, man, is honestly no different than yours. I, obviously wake up, but at some point in the day, I try to. As silly and as Sunday school as it sounds, man, I try to get in and I just read my Bible some, and you'd be surprised how whatever you might read would really be touching on what you're struggling with at that particular time.
It always works like that.
Yeah,
like
it's funny how it works.
I'm not the Bibleist reading is due, but my dad is, and he's he's my thesaurus. He's a saint to me, honest to God, and I can call him. He'll be like, okay, John verse and give me something, and he'll just spit it out, and it'll be very, very like on the money relative to what we're talking about or what we're going through at the time. But I'm trying to understand what you're saying. 2017. So now you're living in the image of Christ, I assume, or as close as humanly possible to what you envision.
That correct.
So what are you doing different now that you weren't doing then, outside of reading the Bible every day?
That's something that...
or is it just a mindset? Because to me, I believe it's supposed to help people regardless. It doesn't take a Bible to tell me that.
Right.
I think you're supposed to do right by people anyway. I don't need you to, not you per se, but just any God-fearing person to tell me that. I think you're supposed to do right by people. That's just how it's supposed to be. And even when they do wrong by you, you're still supposed to kind of supersede that and still extend your hand. Or, feed a family when you can, or whatever, or just give. Anyway.
Right.
So I'm kind of confused on when you say give your life to Christ, like what are you doing different now as opposed, because this is real, like how I structure this whole podcast is it's organic, homie. You know what I'm saying?
That's a great question, man. And I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, and so I think for me, right, giving my life to Christ is I truly so my occupation is within financial services, right?
Okay.
That's how I make my money. But similar to what you're saying, man, that's not really what I live for.
Yeah.
Like you like doing what we're doing right now.
I don't like it. I love it, baby.
Yeah, you love it, man.
Right on.
But I would argue and say that what you're doing now is your vocation. It's not necessarily your occupation. So my vocation, now that I've really felt the call to help spread the word, man, and the good news of the gospel, and that this salvation is free, man. Salvation gives you eternal life. You can go around helping people and such all you want. And what I'm not saying is you can do that all your life. And I'm not saying you're going to go to hell, because I'm not over here going to be a Baptist on you and say, oh, you're going to hell because you looked at me the wrong way.
No doubt.
But what I want to say, man, is that the good news of the gospel is that you can have eternal life, man. And you don't earn it, man. It's free. But you own it by believing, man. By believing that Christ came. He died on the cross for our sins. And I'm not sitting here trying to preach to everybody now. Hear me. I came here to talk about myself. If you want to preach, man, go listen to a pastor that's
all I'm going to say.
But you asked a good question. And when I go back and listen to this, man, I'm going to find you a decent answer. But for me, what I do, I try to build genuine relationships with folks. Because for me, it's not about going and getting people in the church. It's not about growing congregations.
But you weren't doing that already, though?
No, huh?
You were like a snake or something? Or you were like just a selfish dude or something? Or you were just out for self? What kind of person were you?
So my vocation now, man, so what I really feel called to be is a servant.
Okay.
Is a servant.
But we all should be, though.
Yeah.
We all should be.
But for what I found before I gave my life to Christ, man, it was easy to be a servant when it was convenient, right? Mm-hmm. Or when I knew, oh, John, man, like John's had my back for this, that, and I'm gonna go have his back because he's had my back. Mm-hmm. But now that I feel like I gave my life to Christ, man, it's like, man, my heart pours out for people.
Yeah.
Like I don't know, like it's not even about me, man. But it's it's not even about the actions, man. Like we're not necessarily called. I don't know, man. Let me read you something real quick that I got right here. And like I said, I'm not here to be preaching anymore.
No, it's cool, baby. This is how this is all love, man. This is a first.
So
BIKEDOPE conversations. I like it,
man. So what really helped me is right here, man. Ephesians chapter 2, verse 8 and 9. For it is by grace you have been saved through faith. And this is not from yourselves, it is the gift of God, not earned by works, so that no one can boast. So, like, for that, what that tells me, man, is it's honestly just, it's as simple as, man, you just got to believe, man. You've got to believe that Christ has come down, and you know how, and you don't believe because I'm telling you to, or some other pastor's telling you to. Mm-hmm. For me, it took getting into this Bible, man, and not just reading that one, scripture that you said your father sent you in John, but it's reading the context around that, man, because when you read the Bible, you hear about all these great leaders, man, who just did all these great things for people, but they still, man, they failed miserably, in all sorts of ways. And man, I'm not even going to spoil it for you because I encourage y'all to just get in and read it just by being curious. But it's the context within the Bible that really, I think, will. I don't even want to use the word change because that's got a negative connotation. Some people think, man, I don't need to change. But for me, that's how I felt and still continue to feel sometimes. Mm-hmm. But man, by reading the context within these pages here, man, you change naturally, organically. Mm-hmm. You like organic, man. You like these pages here have changed. I don't know how to describe it, man.
So when did you start reading that Bible then?
So that's a good question. So I probably started reading back in, using this plan, so like I said, reading all the context, and like, what I mean by context is just what comes before and what comes after those key verses that you've always heard probably growing up. But I'd say June 2017. And I still haven't read it all the way through. I mean, it's a pretty thick book, man.
No
But I've tried to remain. It's not about checking the boxes. You know, I might miss 4 or 5 days in a row or whatever it might be, but it's just reading and learning, man. And
it gets kind of weird because people who, not to say you're one of them people, but people who often do that and say, "Hey, start reading the Bible." That's where a lot of people get turned off at. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because you're talking about read this Bible. And people have been doing this for a long time and still been struggling, still been going through their emotions and stuff like that.
Let me interrupt you. Are you talking from personal experience?
Wait.
It's not to put you on the spot. Like, so you said, like, when you read the Bible, it's about...
No, I don't really read the Bible though. You know what I'm saying? I don't read the Bible because I believe. You know what I'm saying? Like, I believe that the Bible is just confirmation of all the stuff that I'm not that kind of person. Like, I know, I believe what I believe, dude. And I believe that as long as I do right by people, I'm going to be okay. And as long as I can keep helping people, I'm going to be fine. Yeah. I'm not going to win all my fights, but I know that God's up. But I just had a heart attack. Yeah. You know what I'm saying to you?
Yeah.
And I died twice already. Like, like I got stents, and they went through my wrist right here, my right wrist, all the way, and gave me 2 stents in my heart. So I don't know what else I would need to have further confirmation that God is so real. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
But then the strength to kind of be able to go forward from that, is what I believe that I was given. Does that make sense?
So say that last sentence one more time, man. I'm not gonna lie. I was thinking about something. So you said the strength.
The strength that I have. The strength that I have now is courtesy of my man upstairs.
Yeah.
Hand over fist. Because I see a lot of people, because it's not the physical part, it's the psychological part. We call it a mind fuck, right?
Yeah.
Like that we deal with. Because now I can say we, because I'm a for real cardiac patient.
Right.
Like I do take medicine every day, and I do a lot of things because this is part of the protocol for when you do go through episodes like that. So now when I say we, I say us as a collective. But now I have the strength. If I didn't have it before, I'm really locked into what I'm doing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So when you start talking about you start reading the Bible, let's call it last year.
Yeah.
People, you can scare a lot of people away with that, I would think.
So I'd put it to you this way, man. So
and I'm not trying to disrespect you, passing,
hey, man,
you know
listen, I do not take it that way.
Okay.
If my face or my body language is
no worries. I'm just saying because
I'm
I'm very honest who I am, and I try to be as authentic as humanly possible. And this is real. Like, this is real shit.
Yeah.
For real. Like, I'm not going to alter anything. So when we press stop, we shake hands, and I go my way, you go yours, everybody's going to hear just how it is, dude. You know what I'm saying?
I 100% hear you,
and I'm not trying to offend you or nothing. So I felt. Go ahead.
So kind of, for me, why I read the Bible, and it's not that you should read the Bible or that if you don't read the Bible, you're any less of a person, but for me, I think about it as like, we all grew up using calculators, and we enter these numbers and it gives us a result, and so me growing up as a Christian, it's kind of like, well, I hear all these things and like I know what I should believe, and like this is what I'm told I should believe, almost like 2 + 2 = 4. Like I just believe that's the answer,
right?
Or 3 × 7, that's 21. I believe that's the answer. So that's really how I grew up until about this past year in my faith, right? So I grew up thinking or hearing, Jesus did this and Jesus did that. And
so you kind of found out by yourself.
So my true testimony, I think, comes full circle when once again, thinking about the calculator, I cracked the back off of that thing and I started trying to figure out and play around and figure out how do these numbers even, how does 2 + 2 = 4? I don't know. So by me going in there and reading and learning about it myself, man, I'm not even going to use the same word you use about the whole mind deal, but it was that mind screw you're talking about, man. Like when I'm telling you, bro, I felt just saved, and it gave me a rush I've never felt before. I'll put it to you another way. When and my pastor this past Sunday talked about this. So like when you're saved, what do you do when you're saved, man? Like, if I feel saved, why am I going to keep it within me? And he gave me this example. So for y'all listening on the phone, think about the busiest intersection in your city. Probably got a crosswalk, I imagine. You know, I mean, some people walk across highways. Let's just say you're walking across a highway. Mm-hmm. And, man, you step out in that lane and you look up and you see that semi coming right at you. And it's not but 10 or 15 feet away. Mm-hmm. I don't know what your thoughts are going to be, but you're probably thinking you're dead. Mm-hmm. Well, next thing you know, somebody comes and grabs you and pulls you out of the way. Mm-hmm. Are you not going to run around and tell everybody, all your friends, that story? Like, holy cow, man, I just got saved today. I would tell that up and down the street. I'd be hollering it everywhere. Like, oh, I just about died.
I commend you for that because a lot of people aren't really trying to hear that.
Yeah.
And to be a younger dude like you are, man, like I said, a lot of people aren't trying to hear that save talk. You know what I mean? Like,
so like I've really beat around the bush today, and I've really lost my step. But what I encourage folks, man, is to not be discouraged by people beating you over the head about faith. If you're truly interested, I really encourage you, just like you would in any other life circumstance, fact check it. Mm-hmm. Fact check it. Right. And the best way that I've found to do it, and my personal testimony, is I got into that scripture, and I didn't just crack the Bible open and read it. I looked up, like I said, what was called a devotional plan, something that would kind of walk me through, not necessarily chronological order, although that is an option if you're that kind of thinker, but it walked me through it, so I learned about it my true self, and I didn't just have somebody up there on a pulpit telling me how to interpret this or interpret that. I was able to interpret it myself. And man, that coming full circle is really my true testimony, is that I pretty much, only being 25, my whole life I've been told not one thing, because a lot of the stuff aligned, but by going in and being curious, just being curious, how that changed my life, man.
How can you, like, I just lost my train of thought. So what the next step for you, I guess, spiritually, is to do what? Like, you want to help people, right? I guess. Is that?
Well, yeah, that's right. But mind you, and I'm not gonna let myself escape from that question you asked me earlier about what do I struggle with. Mm-hmm. So to give you all some context, I'm getting married on Saturday. Mm-hmm. And so
congratulations to you.
Thank you, man. Thank you. So it's easy for me to have
pause right there. You live with your well, I don't even know, like, I don't want to I was gonna say you live with your old lady. You live with your girlfriend.
So she so yes and no. So we moved about 90% of her stuff in this past weekend. All my stuff is here. But until we lock it down, she won't be living with me full time. Because that's just temptation for us, man.
Okay.
It, like I said, bro, it's not any easier. Yeah. Just because we're both Christians don't mean once you get the door closed. So she lives here,
you live there, but you guys are moving in together now because you get
married. I live here, and she lives at her current place, yeah.
Okay, so you guys are, that's cool.
And like I said, I mean, there's different strokes for different folks, but that's just how we chose to do it. But so I'm getting married on Saturday. Mm-hmm. So
you having a big wedding?
Well, what do you consider big? How many people are you thinking?
I don't know. I don't know either. I'm saying, remember, I come from nothing, man. So you got to.
So that might be a big wedding because we most people.
You got to feed them people.
Yeah, growing up, I've heard like 300 people. That's what I consider big. Yeah. Now I'm not selling what we're doing short and saying it's not big. But we got about 130.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Doing barbecue.
That's cool. That's dope, man.
Being here in North Carolina, man, you gotta kind of respect what your state's known for.
And what's the weather supposed to be for your wedding?
Man, for right now, it's supposed to be raining, I think. Some people say it's good luck.
Yeah.
Some people say it's good luck.
Yeah. Well, you know, I've been married for what's this? It'll be 8 years in October, and it's a struggle.
Yeah.
Because we're really, really, really different people.
Oh,
you know what I'm saying? And we come from humble beginnings, the both of us, and we're just. You know, it's different. You know what I'm saying? And it's just like every other married couple, man. That's why it's funny. Like it's funny when people go talk about pastors and this and that because I often wonder, like, well, how do you? So like if I curse or something like that, do you look at me any different, or you think those are like less effective words or whatever?
I don't think anything about it, man. Because to be quite honest. You know, when I'm in like a steady state of mind like I am now, I kind of have not discipline. 'Cause I don't want to say you're not disciplined, but it just takes a lot of practice, man. Mm-hmm. And so growing up, I mean,
but why not cuss though? Like, why? I'm not saying it's.
Yeah, I mean, but I think it's just a personal choice,
right?
I don't know. I mean, the English language is very extensive, and I think there are other languages. Other words you could probably choose,
right?
And be.
And I hate to sound so ignorant, you know what I mean?
But you're right, bro.
Out of curiosity,
right.
I'm just wondering, you know what I mean? Because a lot of people would like to know that, because a lot of people don't really have that kind of mindset. A lot of people still use that kind of language, but
so
we're trying to cover the whole gambit here.
So working in business, man, one thing I've learned, and had to learn it the hard way a lot of times, is that anytime my boss is being critical of me, whether I've made a mistake or whatever it is, or any kind of difficult conversation, I've had executives or bosses that will, curse at me. It doesn't make me feel any different than when they don't. But I've learned that I grow to. When the people that speak to me and don't curse at me, it's almost a form of respect. And not that I feel disrespected when you curse, etc., but I just feel like their sentence structures are more impactful.
No doubt.
Than I don't know. But when we're having a natural conversation, man.
Yeah, I'm just asking. Yeah, right, I'm just asking, just in general, because other people, like I say, I don't do this for me.
Yeah.
I don't do what I'm doing for me. I'm just an advocate of. I should say, I'm just a messenger of what I'm doing. I can talk to you on a microphone, but other people hear this stuff, and this helps other people. And like I've told you earlier, man, you're not the only one who might want to. Well, you're not the only one who's going through your thing, or trying to convert into this, or just being this different person, or have these struggles. You know what I mean? I just happen to believe that,
And that's my thing, man. To say,
I was gonna say, my Bible. I remember at home, my mother used to keep weed money in her Bible.
That was not uncommon, man. I remember in middle school, of all places, a guy I knew had the middle of his cut out, and I don't remember exactly what he had in it.
But she didn't have it cut out. She just had it because that was the safe spot.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Because when I tell you we struggle. You know what I mean? It wasn't like, and I'm trying to see like the common thread between you and I. Honestly, as you sit there and speak, I'm trying to think what do we actually have in common. I believe what makes us different is what keeps everybody in common. It kind of makes what's different between everybody kind of makes us unique, and we all share that. Because you said that you come from.
I think what makes us common, man, off the top of my head, is I think we can both be honest with each other, and not to say all my friends and stuff are dishonest, but I feel like what you're telling me is the God honest truth,
and I have no reason to lie about that, and I appreciate that for you even saying that.
And you're gonna get the same from me. So although our life stories might be dramatically different, if not a complete completely opposite sides of the spectrum, I do feel like, man, even though we were raised differently, not to say we have the same talent or skill, because I think you perform this on a much higher quality or level than I do. But I think we can.
No, you're doing
talk
fine,
to people,
man.
We can talk to people.
Yeah, no doubt.
I enjoy that.
So the next step for you.
Next step. There we go. So
is going to be what?
Yeah. So interesting question. So I feel like my vocation, right, is being a servant, and that means serving our community. Because the people on the phone, or people listening, you got to realize that there was a big Harvard study 2 years ago, right? And this study went out and looked at the 50 largest cities in the U.S. and Charlotte ranked dead last for upper mobility, meaning, once you're in poverty, or maybe not even poverty, but the study was around poverty. But once you're in poverty in this county, in Mecklenburg County, it is one of the worst places you can be to have any kind of opportunities to get out of it.
In Charlotte
is the worst.
That's wild.
And they measured 50 cities across the U.S. Remind me, man. I'll try to find the report and send it to you. So when I say what's next for me, is like, man, I want to serve my community. But the thing is, man, is that me as one person can't go out and change Charlotte. But this building we're sitting in, man, I could be myself and be friendly here. Kind of do maybe what we're doing now with some folks. Make my presence known.
Yeah.
Just like I did with the girl in the elevator, man. Had I not felt kind of that calling or that kind of itch to ask her, you know what I'm saying? Like, you and I wouldn't be here right now, man.
Yeah.
So, although I can't go and solve this upper mobility crisis in Charlotte itself, I can at least start in the area that I have, which is my home, this apartment we're in here. And man, if you look right across that fence over there, those are some folks that are in poverty there. How I can help? Man, I've got some networks around town. Right?
How can you help?
That can say what?
How can you help?
Well, I think the first thing, man, is I could probably walk over there myself and see what's up. But I partner with a church on Wednesdays, man, and they're predominantly a black church, right?
Okay.
But and you know, and I say that, and I don't mean that in a condescending way or anything like that. But like, I go there, man, and they're right across the street from this not like a halfway house, but it's like a I don't know, man. What do you not a project house, but like
shit, projects is whatever.
Man, but it's
like a duplex or something.
It's like a
Section 8 type deal.
It's called More Place, man. But these folks come across the street. We do a little Bible study, and we feed them a hot meal. Mm-hmm. So I don't know how, but I'm thinking I could talk with them and maybe. And I don't know, man. How does that work? If a white guy were just to walk up over there and start talking, how would that be received? Is it hard? Is that a hard
you
question
asking me because I'm walking in like I own the place first and foremost. I'm looking for the head one in charge, so I'm not gonna. The only person gonna see that I'm white is gonna be the person looking at me, honestly.
Yeah.
Because I'm there about business. If using my logic, because if you're really there to help people, how you feel and how all that other stuff you got going on, all the insecurities or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
All that goes out the window. Yeah. But you got to know that
Yeah.
You come from you come from a nice background and well off. Them people probably weren't.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So you got to find a way how you can relate. And what the hell? Like if you it's gonna come out organically in anyway. Yeah. Like I said, there's no what have I written down? Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like this is all from the hip. Yeah. Like and because it's real, and when you care like that, when you really want to do something, you'll find a way to do it.
Exactly.
Straight up and down.
So I think the first thing is maybe just talking to him about needs and what the
but if you see what's going on, if you see a need, if you see a void already, like what I'm doing. Yeah. I think there's people are just really not being themselves, and I don't know if I don't even look for that who's doing and who's not. Of course, I have little people I kind of follow and maybe take a little stuff from them here and there, but I'm putting my own twist on shit. Right. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And if they're we
all gotta have some inspiration somewhere.
Yeah, a little bit, but a lot of times it has to come from within. Yeah. And you can look at that book and turn the page, whatever, and I bet you'll find it. Right. You know what I'm saying? And you're a pretty clever young man. Like your energy tells me that you're really caring and you're genuine.
I appreciate that.
And but when it comes down to like talking that Jesus talk, you know what I mean? I don't know if you want to go start preaching in the corner with a Bible in your hand or like that, but
it's funny you say that, John, because I approached my pastor about that and said, man, I feel a calling to the ministry. Well, and you know what he told me?
What's that?
He said, Andrew, you don't need to be a pastor to be a pastor.
Right on. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Like that's what I was going to ask you earlier, because you said you talked to your pastor. Well, if you have a dad, why do you need a pastor? Mm-hmm. If you got a real father who's been in the fight for so long, how do you need a? Don't take that the wrong way. Yeah. Like everybody needs some. I guess what I hear, like a spiritual leader or something like that. But I always thought the spiritual leader was God. Mm-hmm. I don't really need him or her to tell me. I can listen to people speak all day, and then they might say things and like, damn, that is right. Yeah, well, that was, like you have your favorite artists and stuff like that. But if you got the book and you got the will and the might and the courage, you don't need to ask your pastor, whoever, to do whatever. You got your wife upstairs, your soon-to-be wife upstairs.
So like growing up, and I'm saying your father or my father or fathers in general, but let's just say your role model is not, I don't know, what am I trying to say? Like, if your father figure is not setting that example, I'm not saying your pastor should be the guy either, because let's not get into the countless examples where that's backfired on folks. But
no doubt.
But you know what I'm saying? I think, and I'll just let me read you one more thing here, man. Should have it marked.
Did you take notes before you came down here, man?
No, man. I mean, I had so.
Did you already have that, or did we talk?
No, I already had this, man. Yeah, you can tell, man. All this other stuff I have written here. So yeah,
I'm just wondering, I like to see other people's preparation for this. This is pretty sweet to me.
So this comes from 1 Timothy chapter 4, verse 12. So don't let anyone look down on you because you are young, but set an example for believers in speech, in life, in love, in faith, and in purity. And so, the Bible I'm reading from here is just the New International Version, and there's King James. There's all sorts of different versions, but I love about this one is it has some application type stuff down below it here. And this is what hit me. It says, regardless of your age, God can use you. Mm-hmm. Whether you are young or old, don't think of your age or necessarily, in our situations, our stories, as a handicap. So when I read out those qualities there, you know, what did I say? Life, love, purity, etc. I don't think that all that stuff is just, you know, vastly important at the end of the day. But man, if you don't have people with those characteristics in your life, it's really hard to live not up to God's standard, but up to the standard that I feel like as a believer you're called to kind of imitate.
Yeah.
So for me, I didn't necessarily. I mean, granted, my pastor has all of those characteristics, right? But I don't necessarily always go to him because, man, let's face it. At the end of the day, pastor's no different than us, man. He's got a pulse. He bleeds. He has emotions, and he sins. Yeah. He sins. He is no different than Joe Schmo walking down the road.
What makes him special to you then? Like, how can you even ask this person if you know all this already? Kind of walking into it.
Man, I just think that that when I know that he's dedicated his life to living according to what I believe as the truth, right? That I found it, and I understood for myself within the Scripture. That's something that not only can I respect, because I still respect you. I still respect Joe Schmo on the street, right? But that's something that's someone who I can deeply trust, and I believe that I can find wisdom in. So
I get that. I mean, but so I don't know. I guess so. You don't. Not to say you. I mean, you don't like. You can't trust everybody. But when you're on like the spiritual walk, I've always thought that you got to be trusting of people, whether you kind of like it or not, so to speak.
I'm 100% trusting of people. But I guess if I'm getting married on Saturday, I'm not necessarily going to ask my friend who's an older guy that's been married 4 or 5 times and maybe has had some infidelity issues about marriage advice. Doesn't mean I don't respect the man or care deeply about him, or I'm still great friends with the dude. But I'm just not going to seek that person out for that particular kind of advice.
I think you should. You know why? Because you can learn what not to do.
Yeah. And he has told me a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, you can learn what not to do from a lot of people. Like, you know.
And so getting back to that question, and that's a very good point. Thank you for calling that out, because I have had some conversations with him that have just happened organically, right? I haven't sought it out per se.
Right.
And so one thing that I remember this gentleman told me is he said, man, your marriage is your number one ministry. You know, you heard me out here talking about all these needs that Charlotte has, and those needs are still vastly important.
Charlotte is who?
Charlotte is like the community of Charlotte. So
I'm tripping. Okay.
So we're getting back to that report. Like I said, I've been all over the place on you tonight, man. How you've been able to keep up, once again, is a testament, man, to your skill set and your talent with this stuff. I'm not kidding, man. I'm not kidding. And hey, guys, he's still sitting down. He's not bent over yet. Like I said, I'm not trying to kiss his tail, but man, you're impressive, bro.
I appreciate
you're impressive.
Thank you, sir.
So what he told me is, he said, your marriage is your number one ministry, and the last thing I want to do, John, is be talking to you again in, I don't know, 2, 3, 4, 5 years and be like, you know what, man, I've been able to, maybe help all these people and such, but man, my marriage is just in shambles, dude. I don't even want to go home, you know. So that's not to say that all those other ministries out there go on the wayside, but my marriage needs to be number one. And so what do I struggle with? I struggle, I think, with that, with not accepting that. But I'm not anxious or worried about the commitment to one woman. I'm anxious and worried about my ability to be a good husband.
Yeah. What do you think how do you what's being a good husband, or like, how do you measure that? Are you comparing yourself to somebody already not being married, or like,
no,
when you say that, like, what's the because for you to say that, you got to be thinking about someone inside that might not make you a good husband, I would think.
Just selfless, man.
Yeah,
I think if I had to pick one word, just being selfless. And that doesn't mean, at every beck and call doing what, your wife, or, if the ladies are listening, doing what your husband asks. But I think if I really mirror myself and imitate God, that I will, if I'm a good husband, I'm going to be, I'm going to show a lot of grace, love, forgiveness. I'm sure, because, let's face it, man, marriage is going to be tough. There's going to be some times that things probably go south.
I've been married, maybe you didn't hear me earlier, I've been married for 7 years, sir. So I've been through the gambit for like the 10 and under gambit, you know, and it always hasn't been peachy, my man.
Hey, another thing, man, showing affection. I think
you know what I struggle with. Let me tell you what I struggle with. What I struggle with is, and I don't know if you can, if I'm like one of the guys who's been married 4 times, whatever.
No, hey, listen, no, yeah.
But what I struggle with is I can't stand when your honey doll, baby, sweetheart, pumpkin, lump, all that. And she just calls you Andrew. I can't stand it because it's not right. You know what I'm saying? It's not right because you might be doing because you're really like trying to put your all in it, and I struggle with that too. Like I do because I'm not the easiest person to get along with. I mean I try, but my wife and I are different. You know what I'm saying? But we try to find common ground with certain things, and it's always a building process.
Yeah.
And every day it's one step in front of the other. It's as fast as we can go. But that drives me up the wall. I know people that do that. I know people that, oh, honey, sweet baby, da 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 da, and she might call him Steve. I don't know if, not to say you're not deserving of it as the female, but do you not hear what my man is giving you his all? Like he's good money. You should be at least calling him something. Pat him on the head or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that shit drives me crazy, dude. And a lot of people don't. I mean, it's the small things.
Yeah.
Because in my marriage, as in every other marriage, the small things really start turning to bigger things. And if you don't start identifying the small things, like hey, without being a nitpicker or whatever, them things start to escalate and get real nasty real quick. You know what I mean? And especially today's day and age, everybody's looking for it now anyway. Because people buy into what they see out here, you know, in these streets, man. You know, and
one thing I've had to realize, man, is and not to give you advice, but I'm thinking, I mean, have y'all talked about it? And that's just a rhetorical question, just to consider. But maybe by you calling her those names, not to say it doesn't really mean anything to her, but maybe that's why she's calling you. You know what I'm saying? So
that doesn't necessarily happen in my case. You know, I'm just saying, but I've seen other people who go through that.
Oh, right, yeah.
And it's always, it seems to be a lot of times the dude or the guy being selfless, more so than a woman being just kind of, you know, them just being submissive or whatever. Like, everybody needs a title, dude. It's not about that. It's just about me holding yours and you holding my hand and just going forward, dude. You know what I mean? It's simple.
Yeah.
Because life is going to deal you enough either way. And I'm going to tell you something. And the people who listen to this podcast know that I have a son who has sickle cell, a very rare blood disorder.
Yep,
I'm familiar. What I mean? Yeah. So he's 4, and he's been dealt quite the hand. I'm not complaining about it. It's just my truth, you know, and that's a bigger part of my why I do that.
So what does that future look like? I don't know a ton about. Yeah.
His future. What do you mean?
So with that, you said that with disease. Is that what you? So what does his future look like with that? I mean, I'm guessing are there?
There's. I hate because I don't
even want to get you thinking down that path.
No, it's not that. It's because that's my reality and it's the truth. So it's you know he takes a bunch of medication and stuff like that, but you never really know from one day to the next how things, because a cold for him can turn into something crazy, you know.
Yeah.
You know, and what it is his red and white blood cells.
So is it about immune? Is it immune?
Yeah, kind of, sort of. His immune system might be a little weaker, but when he gets sick, it hits like a ton of bricks.
Okay.
You know, because what happens is our blood naturally starts to kind of fight off disease. You know what I mean? Like
bacteria,
so
whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So he might get sick for 2 or 3 days or whatever. 3rd or 4th day, we're kind of getting back into it. Well, his blood cells don't kick up as much as they should, and the white blood cells don't kind of offset those. So in his situation, you know, a simple cold can turn into pneumonia. Yeah. I mean, he's had emergency blood transfusions, but my thing is, there's other kids who are a whole lot worse off.
There you go.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I don't ever want him to grow up and feel sorry for himself. I don't ever want him to be, you know, I don't ever want him to be to be up, not really, just to not be able to help somebody else. So I try to like, as you see him around the house, I swear to God, he's like he helps with everything.
Yeah.
You know, true enough, he's a pistol. He's a pistol in a third. You know what I'm saying? Like he's the kid where I can use context clues to know what that means, but I'll follow you. Yeah. And I don't want, I swear, but I don't want, I mean, but he's something else, dude. And he either does get his ass whooped or about to every day. Or it's like he either gets to look or something every day.
Yeah.
But he's a tough dude. And I believe God has him wired like that to be tough. Like he's a tough little dude. You know what I'm saying? And that's a big part of my why. So his future is gonna be bright. He's gonna be the coldest. My son's name is Jason.
Cool, man.
Jason Geronimo Agnew. I named him Geronimo because Geronimo, I don't know if you're familiar with Geronimo.
It's been a while since I've heard about Geronimo, man, but refresh my memory.
He's a beast. He was a Native American dude, Indian
That's
cat.
right.
And he like waged war on like the U.S. himself. Like just him. You know what I'm saying? And he's done some shit. Like if you look at I'm not gonna spoil it for you. Just look it up. You're a pretty intelligent dude, like I say. Just look up Geronimo, man. And just, and I because I wanted him to have, because his brother is 12 and he's 4, so it's an 8-year gap. So I kind of wanted those two to be, halfway close or whatever.
Yeah.
So I wanted him to be able to have a regular name, but then when your time comes and when you find that or when you find that silver lining, or when you find your Spirt Wolf or whatever it is, talking about my kid, you know what I'm saying? When you find yours, you turn your hat to the back. Now I'm Geronimo. It's over. Like because I don't know if you know, but I'm sure Mike didn't tell you, but this is an acronym. The BIKEDOPE is an acronym. You didn't know that?
I did not know that, no.
Right on.
We had a very brief interaction.
So it's called believe. No, it means believe in killing everything. Doubting ourselves was past experience. So what that means is whatever you do, kill it. Just do it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Destroy it. Do the best you can. Doubting ourselves, silent W, was past experience. Because you doubt yourself, and a lot of times we're kind of over before it starts because we kind of we get in our own way a lot of times. You know what I'm saying? And that's not how it's supposed to be. So, BIKEDOPE, whatever, just do it, baby. That's what it is, and that's what got me to where I'm at today. You know what I mean? Even with this, and meeting you and coming in contact with a lot of cool people, and so I guess as you told your story, I'm listening like wow, because now you get to see like my little son is Geronimo, but you're now Spirt Wolf, and it kind of makes sense now. If you do you think like that? You see what I'm saying?
No, I follow you, man.
Like your uncle was like, okay, well, because he probably seen something in you, because everything takes time to mature. And
look at my story. It took 8 years to kind of get me to this point.
Yeah, and it's
like I said, and my story, man, is I'm not where I want to be, but I praise God every morning I get up that I'm not where I was or where I used to be.
Right on.
So I think all of our stories probably have that in common, man. We probably aren't where.
But
we
you
want
make
to
yourself out to be like you in a bad position though. Like you come from decent upbringing, and I'm sure you dealt with the thing with your mom and your dad, and you mentioned you have peers or family members or brothers and sisters or whatever. So where were you at that was that bad though? That's what I'm trying to understand. Like were you just like a dicked up dude or something? Like I asked you earlier, I'm still not getting clarity on that. Because you say that like it's just a bad thing. You have a college education, right?
Yeah.
That's dope. Like
I know.
And
yeah,
you
I know
live in a nice. This ain't no Rudy Poo ass crib or place you live in. You know what I'm saying?
I think, man, if you put all the materialistic stuff aside, and I'm not belittling
spiritually. Is that what you mean?
I'm not belittling my past, and because I have been very privileged, man. I'll be quite honest with you, but I think, if you put all of our way we came up aside, man. Whenever our day comes, man. If we didn't know Christ within our lifetime, everything that came before that doesn't matter.
So let me ask you this.
So for me, although I was very privileged in things, the fact that I didn't know Christ, it didn't matter. I mean, it wouldn't matter if I was, billionaire. If I don't know Christ, whenever I pass, man, like I'm not going to see eternity, and I can't. All this probably sounds so silly and quite honestly crazy, but man, I'm telling you, like, I can't put it into my own words, man. Unless you go in and you read the scripture, it just will not make sense.
And the reason I say that is because, again, other people are listening. And they might need you to reach down. They might need you to say something. They might need you to be like, hey, man, boom, But I think you said that earlier, whatever, however you put it, in your own words, which is always commendable, man. I appreciate it.
And that's my big thing, man, is just because somebody tells you something, don't go around doubting everybody on everything, but I really encourage folks, and this could go for anything, man. I mean, even like a jump shot technique or whatever. Investigate and be curious to learn something for yourself. And for me, that's what it took with religion or faith or whatever you want to call it, man. For me, I call it just my spiritual walk. And the thing about Christ, man, is it's a personal relationship. When I pray to him, man, I'm not ever here changing the way I talk. I'm talking to him. I'm talking to him.
That's what my dad always says.
Man, if you walk into me praying, you'd think I was on the phone with a friend. You know, and it's not about being real formal or whatever, man. When Jesus was here, he met people where they were. And that's what I plan to do with my walk while I still have the chance, man, is meet people where they are. And granted, my past might have been significantly different, but I'm going to meet you where you are. I'm going to respect what you have to say. I'm going to look you in your eye, and I'm going to really care about what you're saying.
Right on.
But I'm going to also want to let you know about the truth that is the gospel, and whether you accept that or not doesn't offend me. Because if we go back to the scripture and we read about these apostles that spread the word back in the day, man, they didn't get their feelings hurt if people thought they were crazy or etc. Man, they were just obeying their call. They were being obedient to what they were called to do. And I truly think for me on this earth, man, I'm called. My vocation is to be a servant, and part of that's building relationships.
So you don't think you said that's your vocation?
That's my calling, yeah. Man, my occupation right now, man, is like I said, just like yours.
So when you gonna go full tilt on the?
You know, it's hard to answer that question. Ever since I was told you don't need to be a pastor to be a pastor, because as soon as I kind of told God, like I said back in December, like, hey man, have my life. Like I'm ready to live for you. That doesn't mean I'm suicidal or anything. It just means like, listen, man, like just lead the way. And man, the doors that have opened ever since then, I mean, I've had opportunities to tell my full testimony. I would argue uninterrupted. I feel like it's more like, not that you interrupted me, but it's just the way it normally flows. I think it's more well-rounded versus breaking it up. But breaking it up has been cool for me because I've been able to talk through some things. Had some tough questions thrown my way, man. And I think it's good for us to experience some opposition.
Absolutely.
Because that's the thing about spreading the gospel.
Opposition is a scary word, though, man. Opposition is...
That is a scary word, and I haven't.
But you just used that in reference to me, though. You just said opposition, and you pointed at me. So am I supposed to take that as I'm like an oppositionist or like a hellion or something?
I think what's cool, man, is to your point that you mentioned earlier, is you don't know who's listening, and you have enough experience for this to ask some questions. Not to say that you know people need to hear, and you may be curious yourself, but for me and my walk, man, it's all been peachy. I've had these conversations with folks who were there to hear this topic. Right, I'm not here to talk to people who don't want to hear it. Right, and so to have this opportunity, I think has been phenomenal, man. This is my first time doing this, right? Yeah, this is my first time. So
you're acting like a seasoned veteran, my man. So you're doing sweet, homeboy.
And listen, man, if I encourage folks to reach out to my man John. I don't know if they even can contact you. Hey, if you have questions, whatever. Listen, I'm not going to be the one to have the answers, and I can't be the one that saves you, right? Everybody's in charge of their own salvation, and that's what is just beautiful about all this, man.
Right on.
And you don't have to be 25 to know Christ. You don't got to be 65. You can be whenever you're ready, man. All you got to do is be curious.
Right on.
That's what's cool. So one quick thing I want to leave you all with, man, and this is what's helped me. This comes from Psalm 139. This is verse 23, 20, and 24. So this is the context here is coming from David. He was arguably one of the greatest kings of Israel. And John, as you mentioned, man, if you kind of like the story of Geronimo, dude, crack some pages. I think it's Samuel, 2 Samuel. There's a guy named Samson I think you love. But anyways, David, man, he was one of the arguably the greatest kings of Israel. But even with all of his vast success and everything, he still made a dramatic sin against God. But this is his kind of call to have God help him identify how he can better serve his callings. Here we go. So Psalm 139, verse 23, 24. Search me, O God, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts. See if there is any offensive way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting. And where that touches me, man, is it's hard to look at ourselves, right? And be self-aware of areas that we can improve. Because arguably, I don't think that's an innate ability in people, man.
Mm-hmm.
But where I think the Bible and reading this stuff has helped me is it's taught me to be self-aware in a sense, and just how this scripture just said, "See if there is any offensive way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting." So, call my faults out. Dude, I am not opposed to you calling me out on something, right? Because that gives me an opportunity to grow.
No doubt.
And so that's kind of my story, man. And like I said, I'm not here to, and that's the thing about being a pastor, is you're standing up there on the pulpit. Man, as me being out here on the streets, I sit here eye to eye with you, face to face, and I'm willing to have conversations, man. If you are opposed to whatever, man, I want to hear you out. So I don't know, man. Ask questions, be curious.
I guess what I'm learning about things and what I'm trying to do is that you got to add value to.
Yeah.
You got to add value to people and situations. You know, like I think what I'm doing is just giving people a platform just to speak their piece.
Right.
And me not being, because I walk a thin line, right, like Johnny Cash. I try not to be judgmental, but I just try to be just open.
Yeah.
And just because to me, I do stuff from a standpoint of. I think it's cool to me. Like, I think even sitting down with the coolest diver in the world is sweet as hell. Like, well,
who was it? Diver?
A diver, whoever. Like, it don't matter. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
A dog trainer. It don't matter.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, for this to happen is cool as hell, man.
Yeah,
I say hell, but not like I'm trying to.
No, yeah, no.
I'm just fucking with you, though. Man. We're going to wrap it up here. Let me ask you something, though. Are a lot of your friends and everything like you? Or are they just kind of, because a lot of your friends are 25?
I have some older friends out there too, but I attended this conference the other day, and they mentioned this word. Now y'all get a kick out of this as well as I did, but Christian pornography. Just let that set in for a second. Christian pornography.
Right on.
So how that was explained to me, and there was the speaker that explained it, is I feel like, and you asked me about my friends, and that's not being judgmental, but I feel like just a lot of Christians in general will sit there and admire and watch the intimacy that their pastor or whoever they're trying to be taught by, they'll sit there and admire and watch the intimacy that particular person has with Christ versus experiencing that intimacy for themselves. Just like regular pornography is. You're just watching it on a screen. You're not experiencing that same intimacy with that person that you love or care about, vice versa. So when you ask me about my walk with my friends, and granted, a lot of them are kind of, as I would call, kind of on fire for the idea, or passionate about pursuing Christ and giving their life to Him. But where I also see a deep need, this is not just in Charlotte, this is around the world, man, is in all the congregations. You know how you like calling out people, what'd you say, that aren't necessarily real or aren't necessarily... How did you put it, man? I didn't word it.
Not real. I just genuine and authentic. Yeah. You know what I mean?
So my thing is, man, is how can I, not me personally, but my biggest thing is ridding the world of that Christian pornography, man. Because until you experience that intimacy with Christ yourself through just a personal relationship, man, hey God, I need you in my life. You're welcome. Come on in. Just whatever, however you want to word it.
Right.
And that's what took it to the next level for me, man.
There you go.
So,
well, I wish you the best of luck in your marriage.
Thank you, man.
How old is your soon-to-be wife?
She's about my age as well. So we're both 20. We're actually 24 right now. We'll be 25, and I'll be 25 in March, and she'll be 25 in June.
Does she have a college degree like you do, and you guys are making?
Oh man, she's much more educated than I am. Like I said, man, sometimes it's not about the grades you make, but the hands you shake. Mm-hmm. But for me, I was more the handshaker, but she definitely had the grades that got her to where she is today. Yeah, man.
That's cool, man.
She's wicked smart.
Well, how long have you think we've been talking up to this point?
I check my watch. I'd probably say an hour and 45 minutes.
Okay, that's fair. About an hour and a half. See, but like I said, there's no script. There's no nothing like that. And you asked me earlier, what's the format?
Yeah.
There is no format, my man. There's no right or wrong way. We just make it happen. You know what I'm saying?
This has honestly been one of the best opportunities I've had, man. Just to come and talk.
Yeah.
And I encourage folks, man, if you guys got a story, that's the deal. Whether you're a believer or not, and listen, I keep you here all night, John. That's what you'll learn about me real quick. So you might need to shut this thing down here in a minute.
Okay.
But through my story, I just hope to encourage maybe folks who are non-believers. Not that you need to be a believer, but if you're a non-believer, just maybe be curious, man. Just be curious. But if you are a believer, just tell that testimony of how it came to be, man. Because, my story is different than John's story is different than the next guy's story or next woman's story. But, man, be bold. Be bold and tell your story. Because, hey, you'd be surprised, man. People want to listen.
Yeah.
As you found out.
Yeah.
People will listen.
Yeah.
And I'm about to be a subscriber now, too, man. So
I appreciate it.
I'm looking
but
forward.
the people I talk to, man, they're not, everybody, I think that everybody has had a hardcore belief in the man upstairs, but not everybody always speaks about it. It's almost like an underwritten thing. Everybody just kind of like, if I make out the situation, man, I can't do this no more. And then you make out the situation and you stop. So it's been, now I guess we came full circle, right? So we got my man Andrew Fur, a.k.a. the For Real Spirit Wolf. We're going to be reading about you somewhere, and you're going to be a mainstay. Not only in the Charlotte area, man, but I believe whenever you decide to really step out there, not to say you're not now, but I believe that when you turn it into your occupation, not just a vocation, you're going to be nasty out here for these people, man. Straight up. Shake your hand, dude.
Yes, sir.
My man. I appreciate you, homeboy.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, dude.
Yes, sir. Thank you for the opportunity.
Absolutely.